He was the strongest man in the world, a legend who defied the limits of human strength, a champion who won 6 Olympic titles, and a hero who carried bulls on his shoulders as if they were feathers. But even legends have their limits. Even heroes can fall. And for Milo of Croton, the man who seemed invincible, the end would come not in the glory of the arena, but in the silence of the forest, where nature itself would deliver the final blow. This is the story of Milo's tragic end, a tale of hubris, of overconfidence, and of the fragile line between strength and vulnerability. It's a story that reminds us that no matter how powerful we become, we are all, in the end, human. But how did it happen? How did the man who once dominated the Olympic Games, who inspired generations with his feats of strength, meet such an unexpected and humbling end? What forces, both within and beyond his control, led to his downfall? The answers lie in the forests of Croton, where Milo faced his greatest challenge. It wasn't an opponent he could wrestle or a feat he could conquer with brute force. It was a test of humility, a reminder that even the strongest among us must respect the power of nature and the limits of our own humanity. So what went wrong? What fatal mistake did Milo make that cost him his life? And what can we learn from his tragic end? This isn't just a story about death. It's a story about life, about the choices we make, and the consequences we face. Join me as we step into the shadows of Croton's forests, where Milo's final chapter unfolds, a chapter filled with suspense, tragedy, and timeless lessons. This is the story of how even the mightiest can fall, and how strength without wisdom can be our greatest weakness. Let's begin. Now, before we dive deeper into the gripping conclusion of this myth, I want to take a moment to say a huge shout out to all of my returning subscribers. You guys are the backbone of this community, and your engagement, whether it's through likes, comments, or shares, means everything to me. Thank you for being part of this journey and for your incredible support. And if you're a new viewer here, first of all, welcome. I'm so glad you're joining us today. If you're fascinated by the mysteries of history, the drama of mythology, and the timeless lessons hidden in ancient stories, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on our explorations. And while you're at it, give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone who loves a powerful story. Your support helps this community grow and allows us to keep bringing you more incredible content. Now back to the story. What you're about to discover is more than just a myth. It's a journey into the heart of one of history's most dramatic and cautionary tales. A story of unparalleled strength, unchecked ambition, and the fragile line between triumph and tragedy. But here's the thing. This isn't just a story about how Milo of Croton fell. It's about why he fell. What drove the strongest man in the world to push beyond his limits, even when the stakes were life and death? What can we learn from his incredible rise and his heartbreaking downfall? And how does his legacy, both glorious and tragic, continue to echo through the ages? Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see Milo's story in a whole new light. You'll understand the lessons hidden in his triumphs and his failures, and how they still resonate with us today. So sit back and prepare to uncover the final chapter of Milo of Croton's epic saga, a tale of strength, hubris, and the timeless power of myth. The forest of Croton was a place of mystery and danger, a sprawling wilderness where the trees grew tall and the shadows ran deep. It was here, in the heart of this untamed land, that Milo of Croton would face his final challenge, a challenge unlike any he had ever encountered. By this point in his life, Milo was no longer the young, invincible champion who had dominated the Olympic Games. He was older, his body bearing the scars of a lifetime of competition, but his spirit remained unbroken. He still believed in his own strength, still saw himself as the man who could conquer anything. And that belief, that unshakable confidence, would be his undoing. The story goes like this. One day, while walking through the forest, Milo came across a tree trunk that had been partially split by woodcutters. The trunk was massive, its gnarled wood twisted and cracked, but it hadn't been fully severed. The woodcutters had left it behind, perhaps to return later. But Milo saw it as an opportunity, a chance to prove that even in his later years, he was still the strongest man alive. With a determined gleam in his eye, Milo approached the trunk. He placed his hands on either side of the split, feeling the rough bark against his palms. The crowd that had once cheered him on was gone, replaced by the eerie silence of the forest. But in his mind, he could still hear their voices, still feel the adrenaline of the arena. He took a deep breath, planted his feet firmly on the ground, and began to pull. At first, nothing happened. The trunk was stubborn, its fibers resisting his strength. But Milo didn't give up. He adjusted his grip, dug his heels into the earth, and pulled with all his might. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the trunk began to give. The crack widened, the wood groaning under the pressure. Milo's muscles burned, his breath came in ragged gasps, but he kept going. He was Milo of Croton, the man who had carried bulls and won Olympic titles. He wouldn't be defeated by a mere tree. And then, it happened. With a final, thunderous crack, the trunk split in two. The sound echoed through the forest, startling birds from their perches and sending small animals scurrying for cover. Milo stood there, victorious, his chest heaving, his hands still gripping the broken wood. For a moment, he felt that old rush of triumph, the same feeling he had known so many times before. But his victory was short-lived. As the two halves of the trunk fell apart, they snapped back with a force that no one could have anticipated. The wood, no longer held together by its fibers, sprang back like a trap, catching Milo's arms in its vice-like grip. He struggled, his muscles straining against the weight, but it was no use. The trunk had him pinned, his arms trapped, his strength useless. The forest was silent now, save for the sound of Milo's labored breathing. He called out for help, his voice echoing through the trees, but there was no one to hear him. The woodcutters were gone, the nearest village miles away. He was alone, utterly and completely alone. Hours passed. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor. The temperature dropped, and the air grew cold. Milo's arms ached, his muscles cramping from the strain. He tried to free himself again and again, but the trunk held fast. His strength, once his greatest asset, was now his greatest liability. And then, as night fell, the predators came. Wolves, drawn by the scent of a trapped animal, circled the clearing. Their eyes glowed in the darkness, their low growls sending shivers down Milo's spine. He shouted, trying to scare them off, but his voice was hoarse, his strength fading. The wolves moved closer, their teeth bared, their hunger palpable. What happened next is a matter of legend. Some say Milo fought bravely, using his legs to fend off the wolves until the very end. Others say he succumbed quickly, his body too weakened to resist. Either way, the outcome was the same. Milo of Croton, the strongest man in the world, met his end in the forest, his body broken, his spirit unyielding. When the woodcutters returned the next day, they found the scene. The split trunk, the blood-stained ground, and the remains of a man who had once been a legend. They buried him there, in the forest he had loved, and marked his grave with a simple stone. Milo's death was a tragedy, but it was also a lesson. It reminded the world that even the strongest among us are not invincible, that strength without wisdom can be a dangerous thing. Milo had spent his life pushing the limits of human potential, but in the end, it was his own hubris that brought him down. Yet his legacy lives on. In the Olympic Games, where his name is still spoken with reverence. In the energy drink that bears his name, a symbol of strength and vitality. And in the stories we tell, the myths we create, and the lessons we pass down from generation to generation. Milo of Croton was more than just a wrestler. He was a symbol of what it means to be human, to strive, to struggle, and to face our limits with courage. His story is a reminder that true strength isn't just about physical power. It's about resilience, humility, and the will to keep going, no matter what. So the next time you hear the name Milo, remember the man behind the myth. Remember the champion who carried bulls and won Olympic titles. Remember the hero who faced his final challenge with the same determination that had defined his life. And remember the lesson he left behind, that even the strongest among us must respect the limits of our own humanity.